long-spirited debate on changes to our retirement, assessing why the legislature refused to extend the school accountability delay, and burning the late-night oil while negotiating a final budget deal. Hello, I'm Andy Ford, President of the Florida Education Association.
And I'm FEA Vice President Joanne McCall with your Frontline Video update at the close of the 2014 legislative session. Legislators have been working around the clock to meet the sine die deadline. They trudge through hundreds of bills, but there's only one item lawmakers are required to complete before they leave the Capitol, and that's the state budget.
It's up to the governor to decide whether 1 year is enough time to fix the state's broken accountability system and ensure students and teachers are ready for the new standards and the test. The Florida House of Representatives has sent the controversial bill to the governor that gives schools, not teachers and students, a 1-year reprieve from penalties associated with poor testing performance during the upcoming school year. Senate Bill 1642 simplifies school grading by using a percentage of student grades as a base to determine overall school performance. The bill is meant to fix the state's flawed accountability system, which has been the subject of tremendous criticism from parents, teachers, and school administrators. The numerous problems that plagued the system contributed to the resignations of 2 Florida education commissioners. Opponents complained the legislative fix is merely a band-aid and doesn't give teachers and students adequate time to adjust to the changes. But lawmakers refused to listen to even the most sensible proposals. An amendment by Democratic Representative Joe Saunders from Orlando would have given us a little more time to get it right, but it was rejected. During debate earlier this week, Representative Janet Atkins, the Fernandina Beach Republican sponsor of the House version, suggested the amendment puts the good of schools and adults ahead of student needs. Listen to her sum it up.
Each year we delay was 1 more year where students will be less prepared for post-secondary education in 3 years. Increased expectations have been proven again and again and again to increase student performance outcomes. I ask you to vote no on this amendment.
Only thing I can say about this right at the start is, why the rush? The children, they're still going to be getting these requirements happening. They are still going to be performing well. They're not going to quit performing because we're holding up on enforcing this and starting penalties. So to say the children will be affected, the children won't be affected by this. It will give them a time for adjustment. We're so into accountability on this that we rush for compliance and we leave out accuracy. We have to give accurate grades to school. And if we rush the whole thing through, we're not going to be accurate. But we want to make sure we can post those grades and say what schools are bad so we can act on them. All we're interested in is just get the school grades out. I think we need to take a delay on this and continue looking at the scores we're getting on this and get it right.
What an insult to parents and teachers. The measure is a shallow attempt to patch a rupturing accountability system that continues to have serious problems. The most recent incident occurred during FCAT week when students faced online disruptions while taking the test. The amendment failed on a 73-45 vote with all Democrats and 1 Republican voting for it. FEA joined parent groups, school boards, superintendents, and district administrators in calling for a longer delay. If signed into law by the governor, the bill allows students with severe medical challenges to be exempt from statewide assessments.
On the final day of session, leaders in the Republican-controlled legislature were still searching for a path to get their voucher expansion heard on the Senate floor. Senate Bill 850, the measure to modify the Career and Professional Education Act, became the vehicle for the $18 million expansion. An amendment to SB 850 by Senator John Legg from Lutz to include the Florida Tax Credit Voucher Program was approved. The change would increase the eligibility to include middle-income families and increases the cap by 25%. But a controversial component of another struggling voucher bill personal learning accounts, or PLAs, were also added. The PLAs provide reimbursements to parents of disabled students for expenses related to educational or therapeutic needs. It could also be used for religious and private school tuition. Wouldn't Florida's taxpayers and students be better served by investing our resources to improve lowest performing schools and helping the students who attend them? Lawmakers cooked up a scheme to amend a portion of Senate Bill 1512 by Senator Kelly Stargell from Lakeland to SB 850. Stargell's bill hit a roadblock late Thursday afternoon when a procedural move to hear the House companion left voucher supporters unable to muster enough votes for approval. Lawmakers thought the bill had been defeated, but Friday morning's unexpected amendment caught some by surprise. The amended version was sent back to the House for approval. Voucher expansion was one of two key priorities of Senate President Gates from Destin and House Speaker Weatherford from Wesley Chapel. The governor is expected to sign the bill into law.
It was among the final votes before the close of the 2014 legislative session. Legislators began breaking down the state's $77 billion budget in the afternoon, even though the vote had to wait until later Friday night. Here's a breakdown of the K through 20 education spending. Lawmakers used last year's spending, which included the $480 million in school employee raises, as a starting point for building the 2014-15 K through 12 budget. The total Florida Education Finance Program calculations, or the FEFP funding, is more than $18 billion. In other words, Florida will spend about $176 more per child, increasing the total per student funding to $6,937. Some of the funds will cover the expansion of the additional daily hour of intensive reading instruction for students. It increases from 100 Florida lowest performing elementary schools to 300 schools. Unfortunately, there may not be enough money to adequately fund this expansion. After years of being reduced, $100 million will go to maintenance and construction to fix broken windows, air conditioners, and leaky roofs in our aging public schools. Higher education gets a boost. Florida universities will see an increase of $83 million for construction and building projects. The University of South Florida will receive $8 million for a business school. $10 million are earmarked to expand the College of Engineering shared by Florida State University and FAMU. In addition, legislators budgeted $108 million for community colleges, including $92 million for new construction. The legislature has built a large budget, but there's nothing historic here. Even the governor's proposal would have left education funding lower than it was during the 2007-08 school year. The state has a healthy surplus, and the legislature chose to pass $500 million in tax cuts. You'd think lawmakers would invest more in our children. Instead, the final education numbers are lower than originally proposed by both the House and the Senate. For a more detailed budget breakdown, check the FEA Frontline report later this week.
There's a tremendous amount of concern about the viability of the system as it is. There's almost an epidemic of concern whether this system, the way we have right today, the commitments that we have made to public servants that are already retired or about to retire, the system will fail because of the number of people, the savings, if you will, that we project the state to have. So it's not just those who would like to be in, it's those who are already retired or near retirement.
Senate Bill 1114 by Senator Wilton Simpson of Newport Richey would have automatically placed newly hired school employees and other state workers into a 401k style investment plan, giving the employees up to 9 months to switch to the traditional plan. Currently, new hires are automatically defaulted into the traditional defined benefit plan. The proposal would have increased the vesting period from 8 to 10 years. The House version included language designed to make changes in city and county retirement plans for local police and firefighters. The Senate bill didn't include the local retirement changes. When the Senate began to consider the House bill, Republican Senator Jack Latvala from Clearwater made the procedural motion. Session might have ended for this year, but that doesn't mean our work is done. It is important for members to stay involved as the bills passed by the legislature travel to the governor. He has the power to sign or veto those bills.
You have put forth a tremendous effort over the past 60 days. Thousands of calls and emails have been sent by you to legislators and the governor in response to our alerts. Your actions have made a huge difference. We want to thank those of you who were able to take time from your busy schedules to visit Tallahassee to meet with your legislators. Those face-to-face visits were extremely valuable. Your feedback helped many lawmakers amend and improve the proposals. Please continue using the FEA Action Center and share it with your colleagues.
Encourage them to get involved. Ask them to post comments and share what's happening in their schools. Legislators need to hear about the impact of their education policy on students, schools, teachers, and ESPs. The Action Center will play a large role as we mobilize for the upcoming primary and the November elections. November will be our opportunity to unite to change the face of the legislature and the person in the governor's office. It's the only way we will be able to reverse some of the flawed mandates burdening our schools and members. FEA will never stop fighting for you, and we will always stand with you. But our success depends on our engagement. We thank all of you again for your participation during the 2014 legislative session.